If you're following Depp vs. Heard, you probably know Amber's going to try to appeal the case in Virginia, and we got some documents that came out, and I want to go over her statement and a few main points. The documents are 68 pages, which is not quite what I'm going to cover in this video alone, but let's see what we got to start and the crux of her argument. Here you can see the front page, Amber Laura Heard versus John C. Depp, brief of appealing. And here we see the table of contents, table of authorities, statement of the case, assignments of error, statement of facts, and of course, every trial that's 6 weeks long is going to probably have some little errors here and there, but what's the error that's going to change the verdict, that's going to change the entire situation, all the proof, all the evidence against Amber, what she did, the op-ed? It seems like errors would be details. Statement of facts. Okay, let's state the facts right here and now. Johnny got defamed. Number 1, the 2016 domestic violence proceeding. Number 2, Depp's lawsuit against the Sun. Well, we know that was a different case in a different country, and one of Amber's big arguments is that the Virginia trial should have never happened because it was settled with the Sun. Well, that's not quite how it works. The Sun case was completely different, and it was pretty much decided by one person's opinion, who was pretty close to Amber and her friends and lawyers and things like that, we might add. The op-ed. Well, yeah, the op-ed. We've been through this for years about the op-ed. Seems like it defamed Johnny. He lost some positions at some big major franchises. Depp's lawsuit against Heard. Yep, that's what it was. Relevant pre-trial proceedings and the trial. And their argument basically is that the trial made errors by not dismissing Depp's claims prior to trial. So since they didn't dismiss his claims, that was their mistake. Well, I guess for her it was their mistake because we knew those claims would win him the case. Here's, in this video, what I want to get into mostly, statement of the case. In 2016, appellant Amber Heard obtained a domestic violence temporary restraining order against her then husband, John C. Depp. 2 years later, Heard authored an opinion piece ultimately published by the Washington Post in which she discussed the public backlash she'd experienced after that legal proceeding and advocated for policy changes to support women who report gender-based violence. Now, here's the thing, and I said this 100 times, maybe 1,000, everybody wants women to report gender-based violence and domestic abuse. But the thing is, like Camille said, that's not Amber Heard's job to say because she's the one who actually ended up abusing Johnny. Now, whether she got punished for that or not is irrelevant. I mean, he took it, he moved on, this and that, but the fact is, coming from her, it's hypocritical. Heard took great care not to mention Depp or to repeat her prior allegations of abuse by him, but Depp sued Heard for defamation, claiming she had revived her 2016 allegations merely by describing the reaction to them. And let's never, ever, ever forget, by law, you don't have to mention someone by name for it to be defamation. And then they got to get into this. Instead of suing Heard in California, where both parties lived and where Depp claimed to have suffered reputational harm, Depp sued in Virginia, a wholly inconvenient forum with no connection to Depp or any meaningful connection to his claims. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? He suffered defamation in California? What are you talking about, man? Johnny was worldwide famous, nationwide, Canada, Spain, Italy, Japan, China, whatever. What are you talking about? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I'm no lawyer, but I could tell you right now, that's not only where he suffered reputational damage. Maybe it's worded incorrectly or something like that. Also, he chose to sue in Virginia because that's where the Washington Post is published, and that makes total sense. Once again, I'm no lawyer, but the chosen place for the trial doesn't seem like a reason to throw it out of court, or appeal it, or think it's wrong. That's just where they chose to have the trial. And it goes on to say that one of Amber's arguments was that it was just her opinion. Wait a minute. Saying you were abused domestically is not your opinion, you're stating a fact. I don't see how this is even a thing here. How is this a document meant to convince somebody? It's really easy to see why a lot of this is really stretching so far it's hitting nothing. And of course, they give the narrative, the message, that if the verdict stands, it's going to have an effect on women who want to come out against their abusive partners. They have to make it about a narrative, and make it about real, true innocent people to try to get Amber off the hook. And that's what I find, well, let's just say, not so good. Once again, they go on to say the case should have never gone to trial because of the UK case, which was already sealed and decided. But once again, it was a different case. And I'm pretty sure we went through this before the trial started, how foreign trials do not affect American trials. That's pretty reasonable. That's one of the reasons this trial is so important, is because the one in the UK got it wrong. They also say Depp failed to prove that it was malice by Amber. Of course, Depp failed to prove it. First, he did not demonstrate that Heard was aware of and intended to communicate the alleged defamatory implication that he had abused her. Second, he did not establish that Heard knew the alleged implication was false or subjectively entertained serious doubts about its truth. The trial court erred in declining to set aside the jury verdict and enter judgment in Heard's favor. But what happened to those jobs Johnny lost? And what about that cancellation where no one would work with him until after this verdict? That was imaginary? That defamation didn't happen? It's as clear as day that defamation happened. It's as clear as day if this op-ed never came out and Amber just went, her separate way, well, Johnny would have continued to normally work. You don't really need a court case. You don't need anything. Look at the world. Look at the media. Look at Johnny before and after the allegations, and it's pretty clear. Then they go on to say that Johnny's team entered irrelevant evidence. Now, even some Johnny fans said this to me and other YouTubers and things throughout the years. Well, that's irrelevant. Let's not, harp upon that. But the thing is, when you're trying to prove someone's an abuser, you've got to build a whole overall character and picture and get details and have everything come together. You can't just give like one or two facts about the person and say they were an abuser. You've got to really get everything together. You've got to take lies that are irrelevant, bad things she's done that are irrelevant, and show this person, this character is really probably someone who did this abuse, aside from the fact we have the audio. But I mean, if you get my drift, you can't just say one or two little things and have people believe you. You have to really get in the nitty-gritty details. Anyway, that's what I'm going to cover here for today, is her main argument. Obviously, it's pretty old, but now it's new again because they're actually introducing this in the appeal. Right now, November 2022, we shall see what happens. I'm sure some law tubers are going to cover the whole 68 pages, details, things like that. Maybe check out some of them if you want. I'm sure the Real Laura B will have some stuff up. And if you're not subscribed here, well, consider it. If you don't consider it and don't subscribe, I'll be sad, but I'll get over it. See you next time.